For 40 years, Robin Williams made people laugh, yet behind every joke was a man in dire need of assistance. To keep his wife safe from violent episodes of sleep, he would lock himself in his room at night. He would forget lines he had known for decades while filming. Believing he was being stalked, he concealed his timepieces in socks at acquaintances' homes. After every scene, he cried as his makeup artist hugged him. The signs were visible to everybody. Nobody noticed the sickness. Everything we believe to be true will be altered by what they discovered in his brain. On the 21st of July, 1951, Robin Williams was born in Chicago's St. Luke's Hospital. His life appeared ideal at first glance. His mother, Lori Williams, had been a fashion model, and his father, Robert Williams, was a senior executive at Ford Motor Company. They had all the comforts a youngster could desire, lived in a big home, and had lots of money. However, Robin lived in a chilly world. His mother was endearing but aloof and kept things official rather than friendly, while his father was often on the road for work. Hugs were uncommon. It was necessary to earn love. Robin soon discovered that he had to take action if he wanted attention. Be humorous, make an impression. Being oneself was insufficient. He would never forget that lesson. The family relocated to a 40-room home in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan when they were 12 years old. It was huge, opulent, and utterly desolate. Robin was left alone for hours or sometimes days with only the staff since his mother was preoccupied with social gatherings and his father was at work. He did not, however, only pout. He raised his voice to break the hush. In front of the mirror, he pretended to be pals, made up characters, mimicked family members, and constructed whole universes. He turned the house into his own theater. Every echo was a comedy, every room a stage. Robin was inside entertaining ghosts, while the majority of the other children played outside. There, in that quiet home where no one told him what was amusing or not, he started his comedy. School wasn't a getaway, but he managed to figure it out on his own. Robin didn't fit in since she was small, overweight, and had glasses. Then, something altered. He understood that they would back down if he made them laugh. He made a brief joke here, made an impact there, and all of a sudden, he was powerful. He used laughter as a shield. It provided him control in addition to protection. He felt more certain the more he made others laugh. And the more he was applauded for being hilarious, the more he depended on it until it became the only version of himself he knew how to offer. In addition to tragedy, Robin's mother also contributed to his sense of humor. Lori Williams had snappy banter, a great sense of humor, and the ability to finish a discussion. Robin observed her closely. He committed her pauses, rhythms, and method of making people laugh without ever raising her voice to memory. However, he also noticed something more sinister. Only when he was performing did his mother appear to brighten. Robin's smile disappeared if he stopped being hilarious, so he learned to keep the show going. Be aware of your audience at all times. Examine the space. Be the version of yourself that receives praise. A talent that would both make him famous and scare him in silence. Everything changed when he turned 16. After the family relocated to T-Bone, California, Robin started attending Redwood High School. He met James Dunn, a drama instructor there. No one else could see what Dunn did. Years of self-defense had buried raw potential. Robin came alive as soon as she entered the drama department. His voices and personas weren't strange here. They were praised. Anyone. At last, he could turn the jumble in his mind into something tangible. His range astounded his peers. He was a quiet British butler one minute and a boisterous New Yorker the next. Each communication turned into a one-man performance. Robin didn't feel alone for the first time. He was perceived. He was involved in more than just the theater club throughout his senior year. He was the drama club, and he was prepared for greater things. After taking a risk in 1973, Robin got admitted to Juilliard, one of the world's most prestigious art schools. That year, he and Christopher Reeve were the only two students accepted into its prestigious acting program. However, status has a cost. Juilliard taught breathing exercises, stage discipline, Shakespeare, and rigorous classical acting. Robin was a tornado of thoughts and desires. He refused to abide by the regulations. He desired to shatter them. While others performed monologues, he erupted into improvisations. Although they were impressed by his skill, the school was unsure how to use it. He'd had enough after 3 years. He departed in 1976. Everyone was taken aback. It was like giving up on the Olympics midway through when you left Juilliard. However, Robin said that he would have died if he had stayed. Freedom, not tradition, was what he needed. He became fully involved in the stand-up comedy scene back in California. He gave performances at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles and the Holy City Zoo in San Francisco. He had an electrifying style. He became jokes, not simply told them. He was a Russian cab driver one moment and an extraterrestrial dance enthusiast the next. It was like witnessing 10 people imprisoned in one body when he abruptly changed his speech. The crowd leaned forward, utterly engrossed, rather than merely laughing. Comedians like Richard Pryor and George Carlin noticed. Pryor even started serving as a mentor. Robin was a force of nature in addition to being wonderful. His performances got audiences laughing so hard that their faces hurt. What others took an hour to do, he could do in 10. He relocated to Los Angeles in 1977. He started giving regular performances at the Sunset Strip Comedy Store. That's where television producers sought new talent. Gary Marshall discovered him there. Marshall had previously achieved success as a producer, creating programs such as Happy Days. He recruited Robin after seeing him perform one evening and seeing right away that he was unique and not merely hilarious. On Happy Days, Robin Williams made what appeared to be a desperate creative choice that set the stage for his quick ascent to fame. In 1977, Scott, the 8-year-old son of producer Gary Marshall, suggested adding an astronaut to the program after viewing Star Wars. The authors detested it. To choose who would write the dumb alien episode, they even drew lots. However, that peculiar notion became My Favorite Orc on the 28th of February, 1978. For Richie Cunningham, it was just meant to be a dream scene. Robin Williams then entered for the audition. He sat down in reverse when they ordered him to. Marshall claims he was the only extraterrestrial that ever auditioned. Television history was altered at that instant. Viewers went wild. Because of the tremendous response, ABC revised the show to make it more realistic and remove the dream segment. A full-fledged spin-off resulted from a single appearance. That same year, Moore and Mindy debuted and took the world by surprise. Moore and Mindy became a nationwide phenomenon after its the 14th of September, 1978 premiere. It attracted 60 million viewers per week in just its first season. Tied with Happy Days, it was the third most viewed program in the U.S. Robin Williams rose to fame in an instant. For someone who was practically a one-man comic hurricane, the $15,000 per episode was a great deal. In March 1979, his visage appeared on the cover of Time. The kids brought toys, coloring pages, lunchboxes, and more t-shirts. Moore was all over the place. However, the authors were in survival mode behind the laughing. People thought Robin made up his lines on the spot. The writers were enraged by the myth. "We're up until 4 in the morning writing Robin's ad-libs," one of them laughed. To keep up with him, they worked nonstop from 10 in the morning until 4 at night. Cocaine was used by some. Others, like David Mish, lived on sugar. Robin didn't improvise. After a reading, he committed the whole script to memory. He did get a little wild during practices, but he delivered every line flawlessly once the cameras started rolling. He was exact in his pandemonium. Hollywood was unable to overlook it. Williams earned Popeye, his first significant movie role, in 1980. Filming took place in Malta, where a whole village was constructed and is now a popular tourist destination. The project had a $20 million budget. Although the movie made close to $50 million, reviewers detested it. Williams made fun of how challenging the filming was by referring to the set as Stalag Altman. Nevertheless, he showed his ability to carry a film. He possessed star power even if the screenplay or directing didn't work out. Although Popeye wasn't a commercial success, it did lead to the parts that shaped his career. Mrs. Doubtfire, Good Will Hunting, and Dead Poets Society. However, something deeper was eating away at him as his career took off. Williams was confronting addiction every 2 days during the Moore and Mindy era. The doctor rejected him, even after he confessed to him in 1991. However, his companions witnessed the harm. He vanished into the restroom and came out empty-handed. He needed several minutes. Others recalled him begging before performances. "Without it, I can't continue." It soothed him. "Most people get hyperactive," he replied. "It slowed me down." The bombshell that altered everything then arrived. John Belushi died on the 5th of March 1982. The previous evening, Robin had spent time with him at the Chateau Marmont. Playing the guitar while high on Quaaludes, Belushi appeared exhausted. After returning home, Robin informed his wife that he had dated a lady. She was frightening and tough. On the Moore and Mindy set the following day, Robin learned of it. He was taken aback. What? He kept saying, I was with him last night. Belushi's passing rocked Hollywood. It was scary for Robin. I-team days. Look at you, fragile little thing, he said to himself. Your little change could have been him. If he hadn't stopped, it would have been him. Fatherhood was the last push. Zachary, Robin's son, was born in April 1983. Williams had abruptly given up booze and addiction 6 months beforehand. Just sheer willpower, no Betty Ford, no treatment, no rehab. A buddy stated he simply resigned. Afterwards, he clarified, the Belushi tragedy was terrifying, and for me, the baby was coming. He was aware that he couldn't lead that type of life and be a father. Morgan Mindy was done by then. His pal had passed away. He was going to be a parent. A crossroads was indicated by everything. The majority of individuals sobbed. Williams decided to get well and maintained sobriety for 20 years. From 1983 to 2003, he never did. Rather, he focused all of that compulsive energy on his task. He rose to become one of the world's most adored actors. Movies like Mrs. Doubtfire, Aladdin, The Hunt, Patch Adams, and Dead Poets Society were more than just motion pictures. They served as people's lifelines. Despite his workaholic tendencies, he maintained order. Cycling was another outlet he discovered. He declared, "Cycling saved my life. I rode my bike for peace rather than hiding behind narcotics. But that intensity comes with pressure." The people anticipated that Robin would always be in control. He previously commented in an interview, "You're only allowed to be sad in private. That kind of life catches up with anyone." The world finally saw his true potential in 1987. That year, he portrayed a military radio DJ on Good Morning Vietnam. It wasn't just noise and jokes. He would make you laugh a lot before delivering a gut-punching blow of the agony of battle. Most of his spontaneous broadcast tirades were unplanned. He was just let go by the director. The outcome was a movie with a $13 million budget that made $123.9 million worldwide. Additionally, he was nominated for an Oscar for the first time in his career. He went even further 2 years later. In Dead Poets Society, he became Mr. Keating, an English teacher who didn't merely teach poetry. It mattered because of him, standing atop desks, whispering carpe diem, paraphrasing Whitman and Thoreau. This wasn't stand-up Robin. There was more to this. He studied how actual instructors operate for weeks. He committed more than 200 lines of poetry to memory. The film grossed $235.9 million and earned him his second Oscar nomination. More than that, though, it turned him into a symbol for educators, aspirants, and anybody who has ever desired freedom. Even though he didn't appear on television in 1992, the world was affected by his voice. He captured 30 hours of insane genius, impressions, improvisations, and energy that no animator could have imagined, much like Aladdin's genie. The movie transformed animation forever and brought in over $54.1 million. Williams was enraged behind the scenes because studios expected actors after that, not just voices. He accepted the part for only $75,000, significantly below his regular price, on one condition: no marketing. Disney violated that commitment. The Genie became one of their most lucrative pictures, generating over $1 billion in 1995, and Williams never forgot it. When she wore a frock, a wig, and a strong British accent in 1993, Mrs. Doubtfire became the second highest-grossing movie of the year, earning $441.5 million worldwide. Williams became Euphenia Doubtfire by spending 4.5 hours a day in a makeup chair. She didn't simply act, she altered herself. She took singing classes, practiced improvisation, and observed older ladies at malls. He kept coming up with fresh lines on the spot, so one dinner scene took 15 takes. It wasn't only amusing. Wrapped in latex and laughter, it was love, pain, loss, and parenthood. However, The Hunt for Goodwill was the most impactful. He portrayed Sean Maguire, a therapist, in 1997. A lost genius is assisted by a silent, distraught guy. There was silence, no fireworks, no voices, You weren't at fault for that scene. The crowd was astounded by the spontaneous performance, much as Matt Damon was astounded on set. Williams not only received a nomination this time, but he also won. An Oscar at last. The 23rd of March, 1998. "Thank you, Ben and Matt," he remarked as he approached the stage. He departed after saying, "I still want to see some IDs." Even when his career was at its height, stardom may conceal negative aspects. He broke down while filming in a remote area of Alaska in 2003. Fearful, chilly, and alone. He explained it like that. He stated it wasn't the end of the world, but from there you could see it. When he entered a store and noticed a bottle of Jack Daniels, his inner voice murmured, "Just a taste." 20 years of abstinence were ruined by just one drink. Since 1982, he had abstained. It has vanished now. He continued to act and work, but on the inside, he was collapsing. He then claimed that throughout the first week, he was aware of the dire situation. He said, "But it wasn't fun. Not really," he said. "It was anything but enjoyable throughout those 3 years." He was unable to stop. His family eventually stepped in 2006. It wasn't polite. It was an ultimatum. Zach, his son, subsequently remarked, "I don't think I'd be alive today if I had kept." Williams entered Hazelden, one of the best recovery facilities in Oregon. He spent 2 months there, faced reality, and made a weekly commitment to attend Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. He acknowledged that his initial recuperation in the 1980s was insufficient. "How far do you want to go in living honestly?" he said, the one question he hadn't considered. But the debts continued to mount despite his struggles with sobriety. 2 divorces and large settlements. According to other accounts, he lost between $20 and $30 million. Valerie Velarde, his first wife, was given $50,000 each month for life. He was given about $500,000 in 1989 alone. Even worse was his second divorce. 2 years after his time in recovery, in 2008, Marcia Garkas broke up with him. She mentioned his addiction stress. Villas Rio, his 653-acre Napa Valley home, was listed for $35 million in 2012. It had everything: a library, a theater, an art gallery, and a wine shop. However, he had to go. He told Parade magazine, "I just can't afford it anymore." He had made over $130 million in his career and still was cutting back to make ends meet. He remained one of the most hilarious individuals on the planet. However, Robin Williams came dangerously close to death in March 2009. At 57, during his Weapons of Self-Destruction comedy tour, he felt short of breath. It was more than fatigue. Physicians found that his heart was deteriorating. He had to have an extremely dangerous procedure, open-heart surgery. His aortic valve was not simply replaced by surgeons. In addition, they attempted to treat his abnormal heartbeat and repaired his mitral valve. They had to apply anesthetic, halt his heart, and even chill his body to preserve his brain to do this. That was how severe it was. His sibling had perished 2 years before following a similar procedure. He carried the terror with him. The procedure was successful. However, it left invisible scars. These operations frequently result in PTSD or depression. Trauma, anesthesia, or tiny blood clots in the brain might cause memory loss or cognitive abnormalities in certain people. Williams made it through, but he was never the same. He tried to revive his television career 4 years later with a sitcom named The Crazy Ones. In 2013, it had a successful launch. The advertisements were all over the place, and she co-starred with Sarah Michelle Gellar. However, the magic was short-lived. The ratings declined. After just 22 episodes, the program was discontinued in May 2014. Williams was really affected by that. She thought she had failed. "My face is all over town on billboards, and it's all on my back," she said to a friend. She was disintegrating behind the scenes. The hardship was increased by the financial strain. He was forced to sell his $29.9 million Napa property following 2 divorces and the series' discontinuation. He was devastated, ashamed, and uncertain about his remaining duties. His self-assurance was fast eroding. Then things got worse on the set of Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb. Robin started to forget his lines. This was something that had never occurred before. He used to invent whole situations. He doubted every take now. "Am I terrible?" He would question the director over the phone late at night. "What's going on?" he said. And according to his makeup artist, He usually ended up crying into her arm. So far, nothing made sense. His brain was already having problems, but no one knew what was going on. Later on, Susan, his wife, would learn that Louis had physical dementia. At the moment, no one could understand why Robin, the sharpest mind in comedy, was now having difficulties speaking or thinking effectively. Things were considerably darker at home. He was unable to fall asleep. He experienced severe nightmares. He would play out dreams, scream, or flail around. In order to keep his wife safe, he started sleeping in a different room. To prevent unintentionally harming anyone, he would occasionally lock himself in his stepson's room. This was not just sleeplessness. One of the most obvious symptoms of Louis' somatic dementia was REM sleep behavior disruption. His days were affected by the restless nights. His thoughts became a labyrinth. He endured panic attacks and terrible waves of paranoia. He once carried his pricey timepieces to a friend's house for protection after stuffing them into a sock. He thought that people were in peril. He thought someone was following his companions. These delusional spirals might continue up to 48 hours. He was unable to get away from them. The worst aspect was that he was aware of a problem. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease by medical professionals in May 2014. However, there wasn't a complete explanation. He was shaking more than that. He experienced panic episodes, hallucinations, and plain forgetfulness. Am I schizophrenic? He asked his physicians repeatedly. Do I have Alzheimer's disease? He was told no. However, he was aware that something was lacking. He sensed it. It was like a game of hide and seek, according to his wife. Each time they managed one symptom, a new one emerged. The primary medication for Parkinson's disease, levodopa, hardly made a difference. Sometimes, it even made his hallucinations worse. That ought to have been a hint. Parkinson's drugs don't work effectively for those with Louis' body dementia. Rather than becoming better, Robin went worse. More fear, more bewilderment, more terror. Susan saw her beloved vanish. He was afraid and paralyzed on some days and lucid on others. He yelled when he slept at night. Sometimes he would lie still during the day, lost in his own thoughts. Tragically, he was correct when he wondered whether he was becoming insane. He displayed almost 40 signs of Louis's physical dementia, but no one was able to make the connection in time. He had delusions, disorientation, hallucinations, and memory loss. Everybody in waves. He was fine one moment and lost the next. Doctors later declared that his illness was among the worst they had ever seen since it was so severe. Louis's body, collections of aberrant proteins that attacked his neurological system, affected almost every portion of his brain. Robin Williams wasn't only depressed or worn out. He was suffering from an unknown neurological illness, a sickness that eventually took away his confidence, his memory, and his will to live. He was discovered dead at his Tiburon, California, home on the 11th of August 2014. He was located by his personal assistant. He was 63. The world lost one of its brightest lights when Robin Williams passed away in 2014. However, something far worse had been eating away at him underneath the humor, charm, and quick wit. It was a dilemma for him last year. Confusion, anxiety, sleeplessness, paranoia, hallucinations, and abrupt movement issues. Nobody was able to comprehend him, not even the top experts he sought advice from. Initially, it was mistakenly diagnosed as Parkinson's disease. The autopsy followed. Even the most seasoned specialists were taken aback by what they discovered. They weren't limited to one place. They were all over the place. His brainstem, limbic system, neocortex, and even amygdala, which regulates memory and emotion. The findings were examined by UCSF neurologist Dr. Bruce Miller. His response was forceful. No portion of his brain remained unaffected, and he wasn't exaggerating. Brain areas that generally escape damage in neurodegenerative illnesses were entirely swamped in Robin's case. Dr. Miller subsequently expressed amazement that Robin was still able to walk or even speak in his last days due to the extent of the injury. This is really uncommon. It was one of the most severe examples of Louis's physical dementia ever documented, according to doctors. And that explained everything. The hallucinations, the mood swings, the paranoia, the rapid physical collapse. He wasn't only ill. From the inside out, his brain was being methodically affected. The fact that the illness was impacting all the wrong locations was the hardest part. Louis's body produced excruciating anxiety and horrifying hallucinations because the amygdala, which aids in emotion regulation, was overflowing. Additionally, his brainstem, which is necessary for fundamental processes, including movement, was invaded. That meant his body couldn't create enough dopamine, the chemical that governs movement. It's the same chemical that declines in Parkinson's disease. He began to shake and stiffen as a result. It wasn't only dopamine, though. Louis's body reached his forebrain and cortex, depleting acetylcholine, another neurotransmitter required for memory and focus. Due to the imbalance of both substances, Robin had a mental storm in which he lost his memory, lost control, and lost himself while experiencing hallucinations and being immobile at the same time. The entire image was horrifying. It wasn't simply dementia that affected Robin Williams. He had a version of it that appeared to be nearly intended to obliterate every aspect of his identity. Susan Schneider Williams, his wife, claims that it was verified by 4 separate physicians. They had never encountered a case as bad as this one. Too much harm had been done. Nothing could have stopped what was happening to him, not even medicine, surgery, or therapy. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to this channel and like this video. Click on the video to be shown on the screen to see the next interesting videos.